funding, I think that Africa is at a place whereby everybody wants to, everybody's bringing the capital plays here. Everybody's expanding here. Like I said below, $2.1 billion have come in here for tech startups. That's a lot of money compared to last year. Almost over 80% increase on year. So this is where the flow is going to start coming in again. So I think it's just able to position themselves and demonstrate that they also understand, their business. That's what I would say.
Wow, great. So Alain, we're talking about the finance, and we really want you to give us more points. You're also in the finance sector, but many young people are complaining about the finance. For you, what do you think about that question that comes out all the time when young people are discussing? They're always talking about the finance, that there's no access to funding, there's not this, what is the message that you want to give them? And also, many people are talking about EFC when it comes to taking your business to another level. People are always saying, does EFC directly support private businesses, or are they supporting us through banks? How does it work? People are asking them so many questions, but we are happy to have you here, and we want you to give us the exact information.
All right. First of all, I think the challenges of access to finance are real, not just for the young entrepreneurs. I mean, they're real across the board. Now, the question is to understand what are the challenges. Are the challenges the fact that the financial institutions are not having the right appetite to fund entrepreneurs? Or are the challenges from the fact that those entrepreneurs are probably not as well prepared when it comes to, approaching the banks with, a project which is sort of well presented and convincingly for the banks to consider? I think it's a bit of both. Looking at specifically young entrepreneurs, I think some of them have a very good flair or vision, or a business concept that can, prosper and grow into large businesses. But not all of them have the financial, culture, the financial sort of know-how in terms of how well to approach banks, in terms of, putting together a project that shows how well it's going to work if the banks were to finance it. I think this is a key concern in a number of markets. So what this means is that a number of countries where we operate, we need to see those young entrepreneurs being well assisted by those firms that can provide advice as to, how to put together a bankable project, how, and get the right technical assistance to do that. So it matters a lot, because a good concept can just be denied by a bank just because it's not well presented, right? So that's something which is important to consider. The other thing is about also making sure that, these entrepreneurs are able to approach banks, also, having sort of mobilized enough funding by themselves. Okay, banks are there to support the project, but banks are also there to be leveraged once an entrepreneur has also been able to put together some own funding. They have to show that they have skin in the game. I mean, it's critically important. You don't just come to the bank and say, I've got nothing, I want to start a project and I want you to just fund it, right? I mean, it's important to understand that showing that one entrepreneur has skin in the game is critically important. And this is how banks are more, keen to support projects, where we know that the fallback is always the sponsor himself, right? The other thing is really about, when you want to mention IFC, the reality is that we tend to support young entrepreneurs not in financing them directly, but at using what we call a wholesale approach. Our wholesale approach means that we would rather provide funding to a bank. Okay, I earlier mentioned, because we have him on the call, FCMB in Nigeria, just amongst banks, so that they can, in their own turn, use those fundings that we provide to them to lend to the SMEs. Because remember, they are on the market, they have a better assessment of the bankability of those projects than we do. We are not we're not, I would say, operational bankers. We don't have the same active presence in the bank, in the operations as the commercial banks. So by trusting them with some financing, we expect that in turn they should be able to deploy those financing to support young entrepreneurs effectively. This has been our preferred approach when it comes to supporting SMEs or young entrepreneurs. We'd rather go by a wholesale approach, fund the banks, than going directly to fund individual SMEs.
Wow, great. And thank you so much, sir. So I would just say, people, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat box. We are trying to be speed because we don't have so much time. So please, if you have any question, put it in the chat box. So before we leave, I would like to ask you a question about the free trade agreement. The FTA. We have been talking about it, about that, and about what is happening all around. Every young people is talking about the free trade agreement, how Africa must come together. But I want to ask you, please, what do you think about the initiative? And according to you, how should young people position themselves to seize opportunities from the free trade agreement? As I'm seeing the mic of Alain on, I think you can start directly.
I believe that one of the benefits of the free trade agreements is that it's going to position some local entrepreneurs at a wider regional scale. Okay, if you are an entrepreneur in country X that is able to produce goods that are sellable in many African countries, what it means is that you move from a pure national player to a regional player. And that has the potential to scale up your business size and operations. What it means is that we stand to see some small, medium-sized enterprises becoming large-scale, large companies. And what it means also is that by scaling up means that they would also need SMEs, young entrepreneurs, to support them in terms of being their suppliers, to supply the supply chain, right? SMEs would then be tapped more and as part of the supply chain of these national champions that will become regional champions through the AFTA. So this is how I see an immediate and direct effect in providing opportunity for SMEs to grow. And naturally, the one challenge we have, is our fragmented markets. And if an SME has a value proposition in its product or service, which is able to reach a number of regional countries, even if you look at sub-regions, okay, if I take a country like Cameroon and a service company providing some, I would say, let's talk about a fintech company, for instance, which is probably more trendy these days, okay? That is able to provide a solution, a fintech solution that is applicable to, let's say, Central Africa as a whole. What it means is that it gives them opportunities to scale up the business to a wider geography, and then transform itself into a bigger player. And also tapping on the local value chain of other small and entrepreneurs to support its growth. So this is again how I see it playing out. Only positive effect clearly for the SMEs, Carl.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sir Alain, for giving us points, concerning the free trade agreement. I don't know if Uchenna is so that she can also give us her points about the topic.
So, in speaking about the free trade agreement, I will have to speak with as a lawyer. I'm going to speak as a lawyer, and out from the beginning where it says we, the member states, and I think that is one of the most interesting things, about the agreement, because currently we have about 54 states that have signed on to the agreement, So all those countries are willing to do business together. It's a great thing. Of course, currently, just like Mr. Alain says, it moves you from being just a national player to a regional player. The essence of the agreement, is to, of course, promote trade and create one African market. Very important, one African market. So, I mean, if you're already in your country, you have access to, I'm just giving an example, 1 million people for your products. With the African free trade area and the free trade agreement, you have like times 20 of that, as your market. Now, of course, there are things involved in it, trying to reduce the tariffs, trying to ensure that customs within countries, collaborate so that if my goods are moving from Nigeria to, say, Cameroon, and we're able to say, oh, this is this source of origin. Because of the agreement, my goods should not have any issues crossing, the borders into another African country. Of course, again, we know that with the Africa Trade Agreement, there are intra-African trade fairs that are already, pushing the idea into, into the African space, and currently the last trade fair, I understand the exchange was about $34 billion US. I hope someday to be another currency, not necessarily the US dollar. However, this is yeah. So PAPS is here. I want to be able to send more money from FCMB in Nigeria to any of the other banks in Cameroon. And of course, FCMB can also open up FCMB in Cameroon, and I just transact like I was transacting in Nigeria. So I'm happy to. Yeah, that's part of the essence of the agreement. Of course, they are also trying to, and it helps to enhance competitiveness. And competitiveness among countries. So everybody's trying to make their goods, of a certain standard. So that that helps to promote, trade. I'll look at Article 19. I'll look at a few articles which are quite interesting to me. I'll look at Article 19, Article 27, Article 4. In fact, Article 4 is really very interesting. Article 4 of Part 2 of the agreement talks about the protocol on trade, and it gives the status of the most favored nation treatment. This most favored nation treatment is a fantastic opportunity for African countries. So what it basically means is that every state gives each other that concession, that most favored nation treatment, which means that we give ourselves priority, when we see our products, okay? Of course, it doesn't mean that states can't have preferential trade agreements, and of course, it doesn't stop you from having other preferential trade agreements you have with maybe other countries, like I know Nigeria and US have a bilateral agreement going on. However, as long as that agreement does not in any way impede on the most favored nation treatment I have with maybe Zimbabwe or Zambia, that will take priority, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. There is no better time actually to be in business in Africa. I always tell SMEs and MSMEs, there's no better time to start your business than now, Of course, all these means general agreement on tariffs and trade. Okay, so that is the tariff, the agreement that governs international trade in goods and services. However, the member states, in this agreement have decided to give each other preference, and that's a wonderful thing. I'll look briefly at Article 5 in Part 4, which talks about dispute settlement, okay? So, of course, ordinarily, when you're even transacting in your country, disputes usually would always come up, but this trade agreement has looked into the future and is making has made arrangements for that, where they will have the DSB body, that's the dispute settlement body, set up, for intervening. The trade agreement on its own, there's a lot going on for Africa in the agreement.
Yeah.
So, however, Article 27 gives you the right to withdraw. Any state can decide to withdraw, if they feel like, okay, this is not very favorable to me. But there are conditions to it. You have to have been in the agreement for 5 years. You have to apply for it, and then after 2 years that you have applied, then you can withdraw. So, there's no better time to be in business in Africa than now. The One Africa market is a song everybody should be singing right now, because that puts everybody in Africa on a very, very high trajectory. Thank you.
Exactly. Uchenna, give Sir Deji the opportunity to also share his points about the intra-African trade before we just give a closing phrase to a young entrepreneur before we close. But if Sir Deji can just briefly give us what you think about the intra-African trade and how it can be beneficial to the young people before we conclude.
Okay, so it's one of the best things that happen in Africa in our lifetime if you think about it properly, and it's all for economic integration. So it's all creating an ecosystem whereby, wherever you are, if you're African, you can make your products go across Africa. And when I now come back to, if I take it from a banking perspective, so you see the days of you maybe having a bank account in Nigeria, when you do business in Cameroon, all that is going to fizzle out. So even in LCM, we're working on things like borderless banking. So Uchenna does not need to open an account in Cameroon and Ghana and Gambia and Sierra Leone with the same bank. So it's all about, it's all about also creating the right stack and architecture for banking, whereby once Uchenna has an account in a location, then she can go to another location and do her trade and her business. So I think that's what all the banks are also working on that. It's all about agility now, agile banking. So there's no need in Uchenna having multiple accounts in multiple locations. So Cal can have an account in SA, it's the same bank, that bank is in other countries, it just goes there and does its business. So I think for me, it's a fantastic opportunity. It's going to create a lot of velocity in trade. It's going to help the continent grow. I also see a case whereby, whether you like it or not, it's going to have a direct effect on currencies of different economies. So I'm also going to see, you're going to see instances whereby, currencies of individual countries are going to get stronger, because now the trade is going to be within the ecosystem of Africa. So there's going to be less importation and more exports. So by the time we start doing that free trade within ourselves, it means that also products that we're going to be selling out and repatriating foreign currency, which only has a direct impact on our own exchange rate and all those things. So I think that young entrepreneurs must tap into it. I think that you must understand your ecosystem. I think that they must research. You understand? So if I'm, for instance, if I'm in South Africa and I'm exporting maybe cotton or whatever it is, or I'm in Gambia and I'm doing cocoa, whatever it is, what other country within Africa needs these products? I'm in Nigeria, I have yam, I have gari. What other countries can I send cassava to? You understand? So I think it's all those things. People must just sorry about that. Yeah. So all those things, I think, research and understand your ecosystem and your interplay. So let's so not just about you producing or having a business, but what countries do I need to sell my products? So a lot of background work, a lot of research work, so they can position yourself better. By the time you start to produce, exactly. It's not when you have the goods produced that you're looking for where to send them to. So before you even start producing, do your homework and just be ready. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for everybody. Thank you.
Sure. So Deji, please, if you can just share with us your message to young people, since you have the mic, before we pass to Sir Alain and Madam Ogwo.
I think my number one message would be to say that the young people across Africa, I think they should just stay focused. I think it's about the focus, and more importantly, just believing in themselves and the continent. Africa is the next big theme. It's evident. Everybody knows that. So I know that there's a whole lot of things going around leadership in different countries, governance, security, so many things, power. The list is endless. And what you see is a lot of our talents keep on getting drawn into other parts of the world, whether it's Canada, London, US, and all of that. But you see, not everyone can run away. And also, when you think about it properly, the young people are also going to become the middle people and the old people tomorrow. So what kind of Africa are they creating for the generations, behind them? So what I would say is that stay focused, stay disciplined, keep your eyes on the goal, and believe in Africa. Because even the people outside of Africa believe in it. So you, Africa, believe in Africa yourself, and then we'll get there. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Sir Deji, for this great word. So Alain, are you there with us to give your last word to the young people, to the young African?
Yeah, I would say two things. First of all, some of them have brilliant ideas, brilliant business concept, but they have to learn about what's going on in the specific business they want to grow. Keep attuned to where things stand across the world in the specific fields that they want to grow. If you want to start, I would say, transforming cassava into bread, make the adequate effort to understand from all over where else in the world it has happened. Know the kind of challenges, the kind of opportunities, the kind of pitfalls. Is making sure that they understand the world better, okay? Because many of these projects sometimes have been tried elsewhere in the world. So it's about clearly be attuned to that is key. The second thing is make also a conscious effort to mobilize more, not just mobilizing capital, mobilizing know-how. I think one of the pitfalls that I've seen a number of young entrepreneurs falling into is to try to keep everything by themselves, not opening up to others that can bring not just capital, ideas. Forming a company is not just about capital. It's about bringing the right expertise to support you as you develop your concept into business. That is key. That is showing openness and ability to mobilize other skills, resources besides just capital. Because the key to success, sometimes it's not just about money. It's about how many different arrays of expertise you get around you to succeed. That is critically important.
Wow. Thank you so much, Sir Alain, because what you're saying is very important. Many young people are afraid that someone else will steal their ideas. They don't want to share what they have, the solution that they want to bring in the communities. They have the fear that someone else will take that ideas away. And that's why we just give you time again to give 2 sentences about what message can you give to those people before we close.
So yeah, that's it. Carl, is keep learning about the tricks of the trade, and keep looking to mobilize, keep looking to get the adequate set of expertise to pick off a successful business. That is key.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Sir Alain, Sir Deji, are you still with us? We just asked you now, what is your impression about the program, about the class, before we now say goodbye? Your impression about the class. Sir Alain, you can go. If Sir Deji is there, he can also give his impression before we close.
Well, first impression is great, Carl. We have to keep doing this. And of course, let's sort of get better plan next time so that we can have enough space also for some interaction. I hope next sort of webinars will give us that space. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Alain. Thank you so much. So Deji, do you have something to give to say your impression about the program before we say goodbye?
I think for me, it's a welcome development. I think it's really, and I want to commend you, Carl, and thank you. Also, thank you for the opportunity. We don't take these things for granted. I think it's just you trying to, it's a way of giving back to society and just saying your only two way, trying to, all the panelists, just trying to, help the younger people so they don't fall into pitfalls. So I think it's been a good program. and you started it, so you just keep on doing your thing, and before you know it, it will turn out what it's supposed to be. I think it's been good, and for some of us that are very, very busy, it was on a Saturday, so we just have to make our time.
Okay.
So thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Deji. Thank you so much. Okay, so guys, I just want to thank you so much for this entire program. We have been working for over 4 days, and today was the last day. Hope you follow us on our different platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, so that you don't miss other edition, other opportunity to exchange with those great people. So we just we just say thank you, and we hope that it will help you to better develop your ideas and to better seize opportunities. So many information was shared, and now you can take them and now use that information to reflect on your own self. Ask yourself, what is stopping me from investing in Africa? What's stopping me from developing my project, from developing the idea that I have? What is stopping me from speaking out the wonderful idea that I have, so that I can mobilize the human capital, finance, and so on? People can help if you speak out. So what is stopping you from doing business in Africa? That's the question. Ask yourself that question. Next time you're meeting, we're inviting some other pupils that we can discuss about that. We can go further even from discussion to opportunities and to many other things that are going to come. So thank you so much for listening to us, and just say see you next time. Follow us on our platform Career Show Media. Thank you so much. Asante sana. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt. See you next time. Bye bye.